Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone? Give me a cheer. Thank you. All right.
Have a seat.
My name is Leslie Gould. I'm the president and CEO of the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce. We have over 400 members, and we believe that this forum this morning speaks to our mission and responsibility to our business members and the community at large to educate, empower, and enlighten everyone based on the candidate's vision and leadership for the future of the city of Lynn. We are grateful for your attendance here this morning, and I do want to just remind everyone that the Chamber does not endorse candidates. This is for educational purposes only, okay? All right, yes. Okay, obviously, I absolutely have to thank both of our candidates. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I really appreciate your enthusiasm for the Chamber, always, and we are grateful for your participation. I want to thank Lynn TV. Pedro, thank you so much. This will be rebroadcast, and we will let you know as soon as possible when it will be rebroadcast. I want to thank Tony Gallo this morning for helping us set up this incredible sound system. I want to thank the staff of the Porthole because they've been here since 5 a.m. and worked on the seating arrangements last night during their dinner. And I want to thank the LACC staff for being such a great support, just the team, but a team to me, so I'm very grateful. Well, this morning's interesting because we have, obviously the moderator is from Revere, and so is Tony Sasso, so you're kind of surrounded, and I never thought like we'd have some connection, but here we are, right? Okay, so now it really is an honor and a privilege to introduce our moderator, Dan Rizzo, this morning. I met Dan when his city and this Chamber of Commerce, the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce, when we both lobbied for the casino at Suffolk Downs. Dan was chosen to moderate this forum for several compelling reasons. One, he owns a small family business. He's got the political experience serving as president of the Revere City Council, and he also served as mayor from 2011 to 2016. There are commonalities facing our cities, both of our communities, that Dan can relate to, and Dan knows what it means to win and what it means to not win. And perhaps the most compelling reason for him to moderate is he doesn't live in Lynn and he cannot vote. Thank you. So with that said, Mr. Rizzo, the podium is all yours. And I will be your timekeeper sitting right here, so just watch my cards. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Leslie. And it's good to be surrounded by our gold sponsors, fellow insurance agents, Rick and John, and all of you business owners here. I want to thank you, Leslie, for giving me the privilege to help moderate this debate today, and also thank the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce for attending here this morning. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over the format and then introduce the candidates. The rules of the debate have been drafted by the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce and agreed to by the candidates. Candidates will be asked a series of questions important to Lynn and the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce. Topics have been disclosed to the candidates, but not the questions. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement and close the debate with a 2-minute closing statement. The candidate going second for the opening statement will go first for the closing statement. Each candidate will be asked a question and alternate as to who answers first. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes to respond to the questions, with the candidate responding first allowed a 1-minute rebuttal. The candidates are Judith Flanagan Kennedy. Mayor Kennedy was elected mayor in 2009 and is Lynn's first female mayor. Tom McGee is the Massachusetts State Senator for the 3rd Essex District, where he has served since 2002. He has chaired and co-chaired several influential committees, including the Joint Committees on Transportation and Ways and Means. Please welcome our candidates. By coin toss, Senator McGee will provide his 2-minute opening statement and then receive the first question. Time will be strictly adhered to by Leslie, who's sitting here in the front, and I ask the candidates to adhere to the time schedule, and I will try to enforce that to the extent I can, and would appreciate your cooperation. So with that, Senator McGee, your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you all for being here. I want to thank the Chamber for putting on this debate, and hopefully we'll have a robust discussion about the issues that we face together. Just sitting here looking out this window, I think reflects on the opportunity that the city has and the opportunity I think everyone in this room feels. And if you stood in the parking lot and you're looking back at the city, you'd see the downtown as well. And I think the opportunity that we see here, probably if you went up and down the East Coast, you wouldn't see this kind of opportunity looking at a world-class city across the harbor from Lynn here. And I think we really need to think big and have a broader opportunity to look at a bigger vision for what we can do in the city of Lynn. And something that I've always prided myself in terms of my time in the legislature. And just one example, and I know the Chamber has been very supportive of that. About 17 years ago, thinking about how we could, thinking outside the box, connecting Lynn, recognizing the transportation challenges we face here in the community. It took me about 15 minutes to get down here this morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. And how do we connect to what we see out this window here, and looking at opportunities for ferry transportation, water transportation from the city of Lynn. As the South Shore has shown successfully over the last 25 or 30 years, Lynn is poised in a real key position to try and take advantage of that opportunity. So looking at that and having that kind of a vision, working with my staff, working with leaders in the community over the last 17 years, we're able to get an investment to build out millions of dollars across the way where the ferry location is, get a pilot program going over 3 of the last 4 years, and look towards in creating that future opportunity for connecting the city of Lynn, both by water to what we really believe is economic opportunity that's unlimited in this community. So look forward to continuing that discussion as we move forward, and look forward to the questions this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Senator. Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you. I apologize for my voice. I'm going on, day 12, Tom, I think, of no voice, so we're sharing the hand sanitizer. For those of you who may not know me, my name's Judy Kennedy. I currently serve as the mayor of Lynn, and while, of course, I believe in Lynn's opportunity as well, I believe I have taken good advantage of my 8 years here in office to seize upon that opportunity that is presented by the city. I just wanted to give you a rundown of some of the things I've been able to accomplish. We've built a new Thurgood Marshall Middle School. We built the new Market Basket on the old Factory of the Future site for GE that created 381 new jobs, 86% of which are filled by Lynn residents. I brought Kettle Cuisine to Lynn. When they came over here, they had just under 100 jobs. Now they're employing approximately 250 people. Revitalized and air-conditioned the Lynn Auditorium, allowing for the expansion of yearly events from 2 to 3 in 2009 to over 60 in 2017. I created a tax work-off program for homeowners over 60, modernized Wyoming Square streets and the parking lot, doubling the number of spaces in the lot, and increasing revenue substantially. I instituted Reverse 911 emergency notification system, provided free large trash and single-stream recycling toters to every resident, resulting in a tripling of our recycling rate since 2010, attracted new downtown restaurants such as Rossetti, RFO Sullivan's, and Demici's, purchased a new engine, tower truck, ladder truck, and ambulance for the fire department, increased minority representation on city boards and commissions, installed ball field lights at many of our Lynn's parks, installed splash pads at Flax Pond, Kylie, and Neptune Boulevard parks. I've been getting the 10-second wave, so I'll finish the rest of this in my closing statement, and I hope we'll have an opportunity to discuss some of these issues as the debate moves along. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kennedy, and thank you, Senator, for adhering to the time constraints. First question.
We're following the hard work of Leslie.
First question, again by coin toss, will go to Senator McGee. Despite all the programs and funds currently dedicated to education, prevention, and treatment, the sad reality is that dangerous and addictive opioid drugs are still readily available in cities like Lynn, and many people die each year from overdoses. What specific steps would you like to see taken to remove those engaged in the sale of opioid drugs from our community?
Thanks, Dan. It's a great question, and we actually were talking about this the other night, the mayor and I. And I think it's timely because it's affecting Lynn, but it's really affecting the whole country. And we worked in the legislature to we've 65% increase in dollars towards opioid abuse, addressing those. Worked hard to get money for the $150,000 to come back to the city, the behavioral health unit in the Lynn Police Department that has done really great work to on the streets addressing the opioid crisis. And I think we need to look locally with working closely with the police, creating more opportunities for treatment for those that are ready to get into treatment, and looking to how we address the larger issue. There was a CBS 60 Minutes on Sunday night. I don't know if anyone had the chance to see it. The millions and millions of prescription drugs that were through distributors being distributed around the country pretty much illegally, which has really led to the explosion of many of the opioid abuse challenges that families are facing across the city and across the country. We need to take a look at how those drugs are prescribed, working with doctors to ensure that the drugs that are prescribed are the right drugs for the right purposes. And then as that addiction continues to grow because of the overprescription of opioid drugs, we need to continue, like I said, to look at the local level. How do we work with the police, the community groups? There's a lot of different community groups that are working on it in our community, working with families to address how we can connect those that need the help immediately with the police. Gloucester has really been the leader on working with the police as they bring people in who are brought in using drugs or have been administered Narcan to bring them back after they've overdosed, that they get them into the police station, but the appropriate action is where do they get them into treatment? How do they get them into treatment quickly? So I think we need to build on what's going on in the city, work with the Commonwealth to get the dollars into our community, like the behavioral health unit, and work as a community to address what's not only a local issue, but really is affecting the whole country.
Thank you very much, Senator. Mayor Kennedy?
Thank you. It has been a real problem, and we in the city have taken several steps coming from different directions to address the problem. We currently have every police officer and every firefighter trained in the use of Narcan. In fact, we did a program for Narcan training within City Hall, and we currently have Narcan available to anybody who may need it in City Hall, right with the defibrillators in the hallways. We have done an opioid summit that started a year and a half ago. We had the first meeting, and there are working groups that are continuing to meet through that original summit group. And what they're doing is taking a data-driven approach to this so that they are gathering more information than just who overdosed, because a lot of times these people may be being served by a particular unit, whether it's an addiction unit, a mental health unit, they're in the court system, but we didn't really have any way of tracking their associations and their patterns that might start to develop. So with these working groups, we've been able to develop a much more comprehensive database, and we're starting to find hotspots and clusters and travel, almost a little bit of predictability in some of this. So we have street outreach workers that will go walk the streets and talk to these people, trying to get them into treatment. I will say one thing I would not have done, however. There was a law passed last year that took away the automatic suspension of somebody convicted of drug dealing, the traffic license suspension. We need to stop their mobility. These people go back out on the streets. If they're not able to move around, then they're less likely to be able to get to their customers and to move their different locations. The legislature passed that last year. I adamantly oppose it, and I know police officers do as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. 1 minute rebuttal by Senator McGee.
Thank you, and I think we can all agree on the challenges we face, and we need to really work together. In terms of the legislation that the mayor's talking about, the legislation we passed was to, people had their licenses suspended for so many different reasons, not related to their driving. It was related to all kinds of other crimes, which didn't make any sense in terms of how we felt as a legislature, and we worked with public safety officials to make sure that we were doing the right thing. What it meant was when you were convicted of drug use, whether you were convicted of possession, there were so many layers of crimes that you got your license suspended. We felt that the opportunity to get your license back and not have it impacted by a crime that had nothing to do with your driving. Made sense for those who had committed their either probation or their sentence and were out looking to rebuild their lives, and that being able to access their license quickly and to make sure that it was affordable made sense so they could then move forward, get jobs, and move in a better direction. So I fully support that legislation. It was the right legislation, and I know it's making good things happen for those that are moving forward and moving forward with their lives.
Thank you very much, Senator. The next question will go to Mayor Kennedy. Since the vote to build 2 new middle schools failed at the polls last March, what is your plan to replace funding so schools can be built? And in the meantime, what is your plan to tackle overcrowding and the maintenance needs of our schools?
Okay. Let me take the second part first. The overcrowding situation, we have already added, 2 years ago, I believe it was, 2 new classrooms, portable classrooms at the Tracy School at a cost of $250,000. We have expanded the use of the Washington Street STEM School. We are redesigning the Breed Middle School so that we'll be able to fit more students in there, as well as offer up some more choice academic courses, things that keep the kids in school, the life skills programs, the sewing, the cooking, the wood shop. With regard to the vote on the 2 schools, there is simply no way that we would be able to go through the MSBA, the funding authority for school construction, to be able to rehab the Pickering Middle School. If we were to accept some money from them, it would be about $40 million, and we would have to guarantee or ensure to the MSBA that we would be keeping that building in use for another 50 years, 50. I can't see us promising that with a school that was built 100 years ago. So I think we're going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to reapply to the MSBA in January of 2018 when the window opens for applications. I'm quite sure that our population hasn't changed substantially, and the MSBA will still be looking for us to build to fit 1,660 students, which will require 2 schools. I think one of the issues we can avoid this time is perhaps trying to seek a different location. And there are some locations down by the Union Hospital that I think may hold some promise that weren't looked at last time. So we're going to go at it again and hope we can be very clear to the voters on the need to build these middle schools for our children.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kennedy. Senator McGee?
I think first thing we need to do is create an honest and open dialogue with the community to explain to the citizens who didn't support the school earlier this year of the value of creating not only a new middle school at the Pickering School, but to take a look at all of the schools in the community, the elementary schools, Tracy, Aborn. There's a lot of different schools that have far outlived their usefulness into the 21st century. We need to really create an ongoing discussion publicly with the need, and then I think we need to take a look and have a real discussion throughout the community with the locations, with the options, and see what the community perspective is on where we need to go to create new schools. And not only are we talking about creating a new middle school, we need to put in a plan in place that recognizes what is the capital needs of the community, particularly the schools. How do we develop that plan, both a short-term and a long-term plan, so that it can fit within our the debt limitations we have. And I think it's important to reflect on, we need to do this. 80% of the funds to build new schools, and Lynn is one of the top receivers in terms of the amount of money that comes to pay the schools, comes from the state. So we need to find the right location, have the right discussion with the community, explain the need, which I think is real. If you've been able to get into the new Marshall Middle School and see the results for those young people, the feelings they have about being in a state-of-the-art 21st century school that really reflects the value that we place on their ability to learn, we need to have that discussion that every student in the community has that opportunity. But it has to be throughout the community with a real ongoing dialogue about where do we build it, how do we get the dollars to do it, reflecting the 80% from the state, and what's the right location to make it happen so that we aren't in a place where we're dividing ourselves about creating schools that I think in the end we all understand we need.
Thank you very much,
And I
Senator.
get 1 more minute, right?
Mayor Kennedy, you get a
Okay.
1-minute rebuttal.
Okay. We are currently operating 5 schools that are over 100 years old. However, we have taken advantage of the MSBA's Accelerated Repair Program, and put new roofs on places like Lynn Tech and Breed Middle School, new boilers and new windows as well. So we're making the best use that we can of our old stock. Mike Donovan from ISD, I tell him when he runs out of paper clips and elastics to let me know, and we'll get him some more. But he does a fantastic job. And we do have a long-term plan. After Pickering is fixed, the next school in the pipeline is Cobbett Elementary School, and once we're able to get Cobbett built, the third one in the pipeline is Tracy. And we project that will take about 25 years, but we do have a plan to replace the schools that are most in need, and currently Pickering is at the top of the list.
Thank you very much, Mayor. The next question will go to Senator McGee. The City of Lynn is facing a $4.2 million deficit. This is a three-part question. Number one, how do you plan to make up the difference? Number two, would you advocate to hire a full-time chief financial officer? And number three, would you advocate to hire a city manager in addition to a mayor?
Thank you, Dan. I think to be honest with you, I think the $4.2 million number is low. If you look at the report that came out earlier this year, the financial report done by an outside group from Philadelphia, they recognized there was probably an $8.5 million deficit, reflecting not only this year, but potentially for the next 5 years, looking at that kind of a deficit. The revenues are growing at 2.9%. Our expenses are growing at 3.2%. Obviously, we're substantially challenged. I think what we need to do as sooner rather than later, and if elected mayor, I will do it immediately, is do a full and complete audit of the community so we understand what the deficit really is, what is the driver in terms of creating that deficit, and how do we find the revenues to meet our needs as a community. I think we need, and the report reflected on that, and there's been other reports. There was a housing report earlier this year that reflected on we need to hire a full-time CFO. Right now we don't. We have someone that has two jobs. I think we need a full-time CFO. The report reflected that. We need to look to try and create a development planning department to look forward to how we create opportunity down here in the city. But the first step is really taking a look at what's the depth of the deficit, what are the plans that we need to make moving forward. The tax rate has not been set yet. That reflects that there really is a serious crisis here in the city right now. And for us to really get our hands around it, we needed to do a full audit so that we understand exactly what the depth of that challenge is that we face today, what's driving that deficit, and how do we move forward together to find solutions to that problem. And I think until we get that full audit done, it's a real challenge to make the decisions on what we need to do to go forward. I think that will help us start to make some decisions both for this year and moving forward into the next budget cycle.
Thank you very much, Senator. Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, the report to which Senator McGee is referring came out in April of 2017. It was, we were currently in FY17 when the report came out. The $8.6 million was a projection that they were providing for 2018 before the 2018 budget had even been crafted. If you look at the budget online at the city's website, which, by the way, I was the first mayor to put these budgets online for people to see, you will see that the shortfall is about a little over $4 million, and that's what we're tackling. We have a couple of drivers that are helping us to close that. First of all, we imposed a trash fee on pretty much everybody other than single-family owner-occupied homes. We really wanted to keep the burden off the residential taxpayer as much as possible. We have also instituted a hiring freeze. I have not had to lay anybody off. However, we are not hiring new people in order to hold the line. We're looking at, as people retire, possibly sharing jobs. So if somebody comes out of the assessor's office full-time, somebody in the collector's office will spend half-time in collectors and half-time in assessors, in effect saving us one personnel salary. There's so many parts to that question for 2 minutes. I do agree we should have a full-time CFO. I don't agree that we should have a city manager. Too many people trying to pull something in too many different directions is not good, but somebody devoted full-time to the city's finances would be wonderful. And the thing that's really driving the budget is the schools. That is health insurance and the schools, and they are to some extent related. Our school budget, just the city side, I'm not talking about state aid and everything else, has been mandated to go from $107 million when I took office to $144 million today. That's a result of 2,500 new children net entering our school system since I took office. And when that pace of growth outpaces our ability to raise the money, that's when we get these shortfalls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Senator McGee, 1 minute response.
Thank you. And I think, again, the city has not set the tax rate. It's not clear what the deficit is. We're not sure what the plan's going to be if we're in a deficit come December, when we have to definitely set the tax rate. What will the city do? We've raised the taxes up to tax levy. And I just want to be clear, because I know the numbers get thrown around, about $140 million on the city side. The state is sending back $160 million this year for schools, school aid alone. That's a $5.5 million increase from last year. It's gone from $114 million to $160 million in the last 8 years. It's the sixth largest recipient of state aid in the Commonwealth. So I don't necessarily agree that the $144 million is the money that's coming from the city. The reality is we're sending back substantial aid, $1.1 billion over the last 8 years for schools alone. So there's a lot of issues here. We need to, I think, take a look at what's going on, but the audit will clearly reflect that, and we'll see over the next month if the tax rate can be set and what the real depth of the crisis is related to what the city's facing in terms of a deficit.
Thank you, Senator. The next question is for Mayor Kennedy. Mayor, downtown Lynn has experienced some recent improvements with new residential units created, a couple of new stores and restaurants, and a revitalized arts and cultural district highlighted by the recent Beyond Walls mural project. What immediate steps will you take to build on that momentum, and what long-term strategy would you put in place to ensure downtown's future vitality?
Well, I'm glad you pointed those out, because the residential that you were talking about is one of the items I didn't get to. We are just opening a place called The Vault. It's the old Security National Bank building. 49 new market rate residential units going in there, along with a 115-seat restaurant, Pie and Pints, as well as a coffee shop. I have made the downtown one of my major focuses during the last 8 years. And you see what happened when we started with the auditorium as the economic driver within the downtown area. We were one of the first 5 districts in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to be designated an inaugural arts and culture district. We have recently been redesignated. We have a full-time cultural district director now in the city of Lynn, the first one that we have ever had. We're continuing to work with Al Wilson, who's the creator of and really the genius behind Beyond Walls. What we're trying to do is bring people into the downtown, both in terms of residents and in terms of visitors to our city. And Beyond Walls accomplishes the visitor part. Places like the Vault and some of the loft. Anybody can ask any realtor in this room today how tough it is to find a loft apartment in downtown Lynn for sale right now. It's very popular. When you bring the people back, the activity follows it. And that's what's been happening in downtown. Don't forget, 8 years ago, Rossetti didn't exist. R.F. O'Sullivan didn't exist. Demici's downtown didn't exist. These investors came to the city of Lynn because they saw what was happening at the auditorium on show nights. They found that they're getting 3 to 4 table turnovers on a show night. It's good for their business, and it's good for downtown Lynn.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Senator?
Thank you, and I think we have a great opportunity here, and I was glad to be at the state level working with the city to build the arts and cultural districts from the state level, and to see the city not only get approved, but I think it was great to see that it's also expanded out almost to the auditorium. I'd really like to see the library and the commons actually included in that area of an arts and cultural district. There are great things happening. I think the Beyond Walls was kind of the capstone of the last year or so in terms of seeing the real opportunity that lies there, and I think we've just scratched the surface. So it's building those, continue to build those relationships with the museum, with the nonprofits, the Raw Arts, with the Lynn Arts, and all of those groups, working with the restaurant operators as well. It's great to see some tenants starting to continue to fill into the downtown. But I think what we need to take a look at as well is the infrastructure that is in place to help us continue to improve that. The traffic is beginning to be a real problem downtown. The trash that is all over the downtown area that I consistently see needs to be addressed. The infrastructure in terms of the streets and the sidewalks, the ability of those that have disabilities to get in and out and safely across that area needs to be taken a look at. For us to upgrade and continue to create the value that's been happening, we also have to look at our infrastructure needs and start to make some of those things happen. And I think build a feeling down there of everybody that's down there to start to come together to try and clean up what is becoming a really great place for us all to be, make the investments both at the city, but more importantly, the state has a lot of dollars that are available to get infrastructure investment and make it happen. We need to pursue those dollars so that not only are we growing the arts and culture, allowing the restaurants to come, seeing people start to move down there, but make it a place that both traffic can flow, pedestrians feel good about being in, and that the infrastructure investment is going to continue to raise the value of what is a really jewel in the cities that the city has down there in the downtown.
Thank you, Senator. Mayor, 1 minute.
Yep. Actually, in the last 8 years, we have paved over 50 miles of road in the city of Lynn. One of the main roads that we did was Union Street downtown. We also completely ground down and redid Exchange Street in downtown Lynn, as well as Broad and Lewis Street. Those are all recently completed roads. In addition, when I first took office, we started a street sweeping program downtown so that we have odd, even parking. And from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., they come out and they sweep the say that 10 times fast before your first cup of coffee. Sweep the streets on a regular basis, and it has resulted in it has resulted in a great improvement to the cleanliness of downtown. So I would argue with the assertion that it's dirty down there.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This question goes to Senator McGee. Senator, Lynn is one of the largest cities in the Commonwealth without a planning department. How would you seize upon the current strong economy and restructure your administration to attract beneficial economic development, ground-up construction, new housing, restaurants, open space, and public amenities to make Lynn a better place to live and attract newcomers that may be considering moving to Lynn?
I think that's quite a broad question, Dan, but I think starting with the planning department, I think absolutely we need to create a planning department. Numerous studies, the report we talked about in April, the RKG report earlier in the year on the housing report said the number one challenge the city faces when we're talking about the great opportunity here is that we do not have a planning department or a city planner. And it's not just creating a city planner, but it's really creating a separate department that can help us move the plan that we see and the vision we see forward. So that clearly is I think a real need. And again, going back to the challenges the city faces, we need to find out where we're at financially, but we need to find a way to work together to at some point in the near future create a planning department. I think what needs to be done is we need to sit with all of the landowners on the waterfront. There is some progress we made, but if you look at what's going on in Chelsea or Revere, even in Saugus, in Salem, the development opportunities, Chelsea, the opportunities are really rising up around us here outside of Lynn, and we need to work with those that are the landowners on the waterfront, the players in the downtown area, and those people in the different neighborhoods that I think are also need to be part of that discussion to create a more broad plan and a larger vision. And it's not just about creating housing. We need to create commercial opportunity. It needs to be mixed use, commercial opportunity. We need to take advantage of 300 plus acres down here and create jobs as well as housing, because the jobs and the commercial opportunity is where we're going to see the value of this community grow. If you look at Assembly Square or Wellington Circle, it's not just about putting housing in there. It's putting in retail, restaurants. Assembly Square, which was 100 acres of empty land 5 or 6 years ago, is now a vibrant part of that community. Mass General, our partners, chose to go there and create this big, large presence in that Assembly Square. We have the same opportunity here, so it's not just about housing. It's about thinking outside the box, jobs, commercial investment, a major plan that we've seen places like Linfield, Saugus, Somerville, and others take advantage of.
Senator, thank you very much. And before I call on Mayor Kennedy, in the interest of full disclosure, these are not my questions. So I'm just telling you, I'm just reading the questions here.
We understand, Dan.
Mayor Kennedy.
The gist of this was about a planning department and planner, I take it, right? We actually did have a planning department way back in the 1980s, and one of my predecessors decided that we no longer needed a separate planning department and rolled it into the Inspectional Services Department. As the years went on, community development started to take up some of the planning functions, mainly on the residential side, the parks and the amenities portion of planning. ISD took on the technical issues like zoning, and the economic development had more of a focus on business development. So we do have planning, it's just what we might call decentralized. I've heard calls over a number of years for having a true planner with a true planning department. Now, as I said, we do have a deficit this year, and I'm trying to hold my own, just keeping everybody employed. So it wouldn't make sense for me to lay people off in one department in order to hire a city planner, or even more completely, a city planner with staff. What we did try to do earlier this year, we did put out an ad to seek a city planner. I got funding commitments from economic development, which is not city budget money, and community development. They were each going to pay $50,000 toward the salary for the planner. The first round of resumes did not produce what we would have liked to have seen for our vision of a planner. And after discussing it further with people who have been advocating for a planning department, they felt that one person was not going to make a difference, and frankly, I thought we could use the community and economic development money toward greater, more immediate needs, and so the idea was dropped by this summer. But it is something that should be in Lynn's future, I would have to say behind a CFO, because right now, financial is number one priority.
Thank you, Mayor. Senator, 1 minute.
Yeah, I think it's clear that we need to create a professional planning department. We have to talk about how we create that, recognizing the challenges the city faces. If you look at Hingham or Peabody or Lowell, or places that have had a vibrant planning department, they have seen the creation of opportunity, development, private investment. Those are the things that happen. The two different reports this year reflected clearly that one of the big roadblocks for us to continue to move our plan forward is to create a separate planning department that recognizes the opportunity. I know that over the years the decision was made to go away from a planning department, and I think the city has been negatively impacted by our ability to take advantage of these opportunities. Again, as you look around us, every surrounding community that's taking advantage of that has put a plan in place with a planning department separate that works to put the vision of the community in place in a way that fits to allow future development and economic opportunity to happen, not in a piecemeal manner, and I think that's what we need to do.
It's easier. Yeah.
Mayor, based on the city's current waterfront master plan, most land is slated for residential rental development. If Amazon chose Lynn for its second headquarters, creating potentially 50,000 new high-paying jobs by 2027, how does this change your perception of how to best utilize the land?
When Amazon first put out its RFP, my gut instinct was no. This vision of the planning department, I'm sorry, I'm still on the planning department. This vision of the waterfront and the master plan has really been one that has been our blueprint since 2007 when Sasaki and Associates created it. And the idea was to bring people down and make the waterfront lively and bring people in from the region to enjoy our downtown, our waterfront area. By putting in one big corporation, I felt as though it was not going to accomplish those goals. However, after listening to several different people, hearing their opinions, understanding that Amazon is not your ordinary corporation, but is in fact a once-in-a-generation opportunity to bring some real business investment to the waterfront. I could see where if they were to build in such a way that it was not just one gigantic single building corporate headquarters spread over that 300 acres, but became something more of a small Amazon City where the employees could walk around, they could take advantage of our boardwalk. There would be restaurants or cafeterias or coffee shops open up for the Amazon employees as well as for other visitors to the waterfront. Then I could see where it would be a very good opportunity for the city of Lynn. So as a result, I directed my economic development director to write a letter of interest to Amazon, inviting them to come down to see what Lynn has to offer. And I'm looking forward to meeting with those executives should they choose to take us up on that offer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Senator McGee?
Thank you. I'm very glad that the city made a decision to move forward on putting a proposal in. It's an exciting opportunity, and as the mayor said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I think if you look at what they've been able to do in Seattle, really create not just buildings, but create a real village of opportunity for jobs, creating housing, restaurants, the kind of investments that I think we really could see on our waterfront. And like I said earlier, when you look out this window and you see the opportunity to really connect to the whole region with Amazon, I think not only are they in a location that's close to the airport, really easy access to the North Shore, but just as importantly from the waterfront, you can really access the whole region in terms of the talent that's needed, the universities that are in this region, all of the pros that we really in Boston feel are important are reflected here in Lynn on the waterfront. So it's an opportunity that I'd love to see happen here, but I think more importantly, by us putting that proposal out and saying to the world that we in Lynn are looking at something big. Let's think about what the GE was 35, 40, maybe 40 years ago, over 30,000 employees there. We again could create that opportunity here with that kind of, with Amazon being the catalyst for that, or some other opportunity to come in with others that look to Lynn now and recognize the value that we have here. And I think the plus as well was the 4 major landowners on the waterfront have come together and recognized that by coming together on a plan like this, thinking big, that they could really see that what their vision of their future is directly connected to a bigger vision on what Lynn's opportunity could be, and they were linked to that idea of a bigger and broader vision. So it's exciting. It's an exciting opportunity, not only for this discussion, but I think it will allow us to have that larger discussion, win or lose with the Amazon proposal, to take a look at what, in a big way, we can do related to what we here have as a great resource in the city.
Thank you, Senator. Mayor Kennedy, 1 minute.
Yes, I think that one of the attractions that Amazon would find, they like to, for example, encourage healthy lifestyles. They have a lot of young people that work for them, a lot of millennials that work for them. And if you think about other communities, not just in the Commonwealth, but across the country, we do offer something unique. We have Linwood's 2,200 acres, and we pointed this out to them in our letter of interest. Hiking, horseback riding, bicycle, trails in the woods. We have the waterfront. We have the golf course. We have a lot of things that we believe Amazon would find. The proximity to Boston and to Logan Airport, the straight shot down Route 1A, we really piled it on in this letter of interest, and I'm hoping that it intrigues them enough that they'll set up an appointment and come visit us and see what we have to offer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. The next question goes to Senator McGee. Senator, the transportation issues in this county are well documented. Not enough east-west public transit, crowded streets, and major traffic jams on highways in and out of Boston. As mayor of the city of Lynn, what specific initiatives will you implement to enhance Essex County's transportation for all residents, and especially for lower-income neighbors without cars who must rely on public transportation to access travel, to jobs, education and training facilities, and other purposes?
Thanks for the question, Dan. And I know there's been, because I've seen it on my Facebook page, people think that thinking about the blue line is a crazy idea. But I think the blue line is a key piece of what we need to look for the future of opportunity on the North Shore. That would create transit for the North Shore. We're the only greater Boston area that does not have access to rapid transit, and there's a lot of things that are coming in play to try and make that a reality. But how would we make it happen? I know in Lynn we feel strongly about it, but over the years I've been in the legislature, I've worked hard to build outside the box thinking as a region. The North Shore Chamber has become a strong supporter of accessing the Blue Line and rapid transit into the North Shore. Logan Airport will be expanding substantially. They have 500,000 new flyers this year, going up to 6 or 7 million over the next 4 or 5 years. No access points to Logan Airport. Bringing the Blue Line to Lynn will clearly access everyone on the North Shore, particularly up to the New Hampshire border on the Newburyport line through Lynn to Logan Airport, which will alleviate many of the challenges that corridor faces, as we face it every day coming in and out of there, and people that are trying to get to work every day. And just as importantly, I think building relationships, and I've worked on that with all the leaders in the North Shore, the mayors of the region, the business leaders of the region, that understand that we need to bring more transit opportunities, both north, south, east, west, into this region. The Peabody Mayor is talking about bringing a light rail line back to life, going from the Danvers Mall into Salem. Salem's looking for a south rail at South Salem to get a rail station in there. If you think about the opportunity to get the Blue Line into Lynn, and again with an idea of running the trains on the current commuter rail tracks, which is done in Europe and Asia, to bring that into Lynn, bring it out to South Salem, you would then start to have access to the North Shore. And if you're talking east-west with that light rail line that I think is a good idea, running in from Danvers to Salem, you're starting to talk about a regional perspective with regional support to create rapid transit opportunities for people in the region that have been left behind in the past.
Thank you, Senator. Mayor Kennedy?
First of all, let me say I am a supporter of the North-South Rail Link Initiative because it would be nice to have that direct connection between the North Shore and the South Shore. However, I don't think that the economic survival or success of the city of Lynn depends solely on regional public transportation. I just want to point something out. I was doing some research. Do you know when the first extension of the Blue Line into Lynn was first proposed? 1926. You can look it up. And it hasn't happened. We're going on 100 years. It hasn't happened, and I'm not going to plan my city's future based on an idea that has been floated since before Prohibition. I will point out that there has been a lot of expansion of the MBTA. The Green Line is extending into Somerville. The Red Line is expanding into Medford. The Orange Line got a new assembly stop in 2014 that the senator had referenced earlier, where Mass General has set up. The Blue Line got a $53 million multimodal transit center in Revere, thank you very much, at Wonderland, as well as a $20 million pedestrian bridge, the Marquee pedestrian bridge that looks like a mini Zachem bridge. Now, I'm going to throw a little shot at the senator here, and he will have time to respond. He's been a member of the Transportation Committee since 2003, and its chair since 2010. So if we have not been able to achieve this expansion by now, how are we going to be able to do it without that power on the Transportation Committee? And I do know you have time to respond.
Senator McGee.
Thank you. It's always easy to get to know. The real challenge is how do you get to yes. And I would totally disagree with the mayor saying that Lynn does not need access to rapid transit. The latest report that came out associated with the Amazon proposal from Peter Mead, the former head of Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Jim Aloisi, who was the former chairman of Secretary of Transportation, suggested that the Blue Line to Lynn has to be part of that plan. We recognize the opportunity. As I said, it's easy to get to yes. I mean, no, it's not easy to get to yes. And I would disagree with the history a little bit. The old narrow gauge line ran until the 40s. That was the Blue Line. And it came from Lynn. It went from Lynn to the East Boston waterfront. Then you would, part of that fare, you actually took a ferry to Boston. The narrow gauge line was supposed to be recreated to bring the Blue Line to Lynn. The plans were from 1946. But the plan had always been to bring the Blue Line to Lynn because people understood that the Lynn, Revere, Boston narrow gauge line, which also went to Winthrop, was a key driver for opportunity and economic development in the whole region. So for us to say that it's never going to happen, or we shouldn't do it, or it's not important for our region is a mistake. The reality is we need to have real leadership that's willing to stand up and understand that when you fail, you still keep your eyes on the prize to try and make things happen that are going to make this community better. So again, I have been an advocate, strong advocate, to bring this project to the city because I believe in it. And many people who in the past have not believed in it have come along because they understand for the future of the region, for the future of this community, we need to make investment in public transportation and make it a reality.
Thank you very much, Senator. The next question goes to Mayor Kennedy. Mayor, does the City of Lynn have a seat at the Union Hospital table? And if a sale is imminent, what is your vision for the best use of the building and/or its property?
Yes, the City of Lynn has been in regular contact with Union Hospital, Partners Healthcare, and North Shore Medical Center executives since 2013, when the proposal was first floated to close Union Hospital. We have a group that meets regularly. We first of all, obviously, tried to fight the closing. A city of 90,000 people without a hospital, especially where it's located in Ward 1 and requires a trip through Wyoma Square to get to the next closest hospital in Salem, we thought was doing a complete disservice to the residents that live out in Ward 1 and in West Lynn. However, we tried, and the senator was part of these meetings as well. We tried going through the Department of Public Health. We tried going through the Attorney General's office. We could not stop the hospital from closing. However, they have been very receptive to our insistence that there be urgent care available either on that campus or very close to that campus to service the people of Ward 1 and the people of West Lynn. To that extent, what we seem to be moving toward now is for Union Hospital to remake that campus, or a good piece of that campus, into a medical village, they're calling it, with expanded primary care physicians' offices, some basic radiology and evaluative tests, and the urgent care on that campus as well. As far as the rest of the campus, personally, I wouldn't mind seeing some kind of an assisted living facility there. Lynn doesn't really have that many assisted living rooms, and I think it would be a good fit for the neighborhood, an ideal location in proximity to that medical village, and hopefully something that would bring in some tax revenue on that piece of property where we currently get none.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Senator McGee?
Thank you, Dan. And there's a change. It really has been, I think Lynn is caught up in the changing dynamic of the way health care is provided today. There's hospitals that are struggling around the Commonwealth. Pittsfield, North Adams Hospital closed down within a week's notice. There's a lot of challenges being faced, and the mayor and I have been part of an ongoing working group to try and continue to preserve what we believe is the necessary services that the people in this community deserve, recognizing we're facing the challenges of changing health care, hospital needs that are consolidating into more regional locations. So Lynn has been faced with that challenge with a smaller inpatient facility there. So it have been some really good discussions with the working group about how do we preserve service there, whether it be an urgent care center, outpatient, as well as a primary care center there, continuing to make sure that the service is provided to the community in that location, which I think is very important and we agree on. And then what is the alternative to the location based on the downsizing of that fits within that neighborhood, recognizing we hope to preserve as much care as possible moving forward. And there is an opportunity, and I think all of us on the working group, particularly from the city, the mayor and I have worked to ensure that we get the public input that's necessary as we're having these discussions. On October 26th, there'll be a public meeting at the Franco-American. That's next week, to allow the public again to come back in, look at some of the proposals that will be discussed then, see if we're on the right track. But I think it's really important that the people in this community continue to come together, work with us to ensure we preserve the service, or some service, a modicum of service that reflects the need in the community, that we're able to make sure that not only service is going to last for 5 years, but service that is going to be long-term to continue to provide the service in the community. And again, I urge those that can make it on next week on the 26th to get to the Franco-American and make sure your voices are heard, along with the mayor and others that are on the work, and myself that are on the working board, the working group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. 1 minute, Mayor.
I just reiterate what the senator said, and that is that I've found that partners and the officials have been listening to us. They do understand that we cannot be left without some sort of urgent medical facility in that area. And I think part of the reason why they have been so receptive is because of the number of people that have spoken out loudly, vociferously, and in great numbers. I will not be at that meeting on the 26th because I have a school committee meeting. Please do not take that as my lack of interest in this, but I just simply can't make it with that conflict. It's really important that people come out and voice their opinion and let the executives know we're watching what they're doing, and we want to make sure that their decisions reflect what's going to be best for the people and the city of Lynn.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This last question goes to Senator McGee. Senator, General Electric remains one of Lynn's largest employers and certainly remains committed to community involvement and causes. On the GE site, there are buildings that have been torn down and parcels of land no longer utilized. If elected, how do you see yourself communicating with GE to create economic opportunities for the city of Lynn?
I think that's a question that I think reflects both inside and outside the fence, which anybody that, and I know some people in the room understand that, what's actually on their property inside the fence and other properties that are outside the fence. And the city has been working to address those outside locations and try and take advantage of those and make some investment there. But I think more importantly, we need to have a real ongoing discussion with the GE about how do they envision what's happening inside the fence. They've sold some of their land off, which is where the gear plant used to be. But there's great opportunity, I think, for a real ongoing discussion about how we can allow them to continue to thrive. The jet engines continue to be built there, and I know they're working on contracts that will keep them in place for a long period of time moving forward. But how do we take advantage of a lot of that land that's inside the fence? That I think involves really sitting down at the table and talking about what advantage do they have, as well as what can we see as the kind of developments or investments or the business opportunities that we can see inside the fence that wouldn't inhibit on their ability to continue to do their job and have a location that's a secure location. And I think we also need to talk to them about working with us. There's $10 million that was provided as part of them moving to Boston, the headquarters in Boston. So I'd love to see us also have a discussion about what's going on with not only Lynn Tech, the E-Team Machinist program, programs like that, so we can help to draw on some of those dollars in this community where they established their business over 100 years ago, to see some of those dollars come in and help us develop training programs, working with our students at Lynn Tech, but just as importantly, using the facility for those that aren't in school, but after hours, getting the training dollars in to, I think, use the E-Team Machinist program, which I've continued to work on over the last 20 years and created 500 plus employed and trained jobs to see that kind of opportunity, continue to work with the G and make those kind of opportunities happening here.
Thank you very much, Senator. Mayor?
Okay, the senator is correct when he talks about inside and outside the fence. Inside the fence is a restricted area because GE does a lot of Department of Defense work, DOD work, and they can't just have people traipsing across their property. So it makes it a little difficult to redevelop some of the uses of the buildings in there. I think that the lead team that was created by the governor 2 years ago has been very helpful in allowing us the federal access by Congressman Moulton to get those talks with GE going on what's going to happen inside the fence. With respect to outside the fence, you all see where the market basket is now. That was the factory of the future. That was shut down as a factory in the late 1980s. And I sat on the city council, before that on the school committee, watching the brownfields committees meet, and nobody at the local level could ever make any decisions about whether to sell the property. So when I became mayor, I said to the local officials, I'm sick of this running up to corporate and running back to corporate. Who makes the decisions? I'm going to go out to see them. And then all of a sudden they sat up and said, oh, well, we'll bring them out here to see you. So that started in 2010. We started meeting regularly. The end result, as you can see, is GE finally relinquished its title to 22 acres of land on Federal Street, and we now have a brand new supermarket, in a part of the city that's considered a food desert, employing, as I said, 381 people, 86% of them from Lynn, and it's a company that grows from within, so it's terrific opportunity for our residents. And the same or similar pattern happened with the gear plant. Now that is 65 acres on the Lynnway, outside the fence, poised for development. So there has been movement with GE, and I think if we continue to put the mild pressure on them, we will continue to see progress on the GE front.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kennedy. 1 minute, Senator McGee.
I think there's been great progress, particularly with major players in the city coming to the table, looking to not only buy that property, which happened at the gear plant location, but also to ensure that the investment that was going to be made at the Market Basket site was going to happen. There were a number of key players in the community that worked on that as well. But I think the real important piece is recognizing that inside the fence, and I think that's what the question was related to in terms of what do we do moving forward, there's a lot of land inside the fence. So the question is, how do we work with the GE and ensure that their security is protected, but that we start to take advantage of a large swath of land that's just sitting there empty. And that is something I will look forward to having those large discussions with them about creating that opportunity. Those discussions have continued. I've been working with people in the GE as a senator, and I know that there's opportunity moving forward to create some options that will work for them and will work for the city inside the fence as well.
Thank you very much, Senator. And that will conclude the question part. Before we go into closing statements, I just wanted to again thank Leslie and the Board of Directors and members of the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce for allowing me this opportunity to learn more about your great city. We are neighbors, and it's really been an eye-opening experience for me to be here and participate in this process. But I've only asked the questions. I've sat in one of those chairs before, and it is not easy to sit there and have to answer these questions off the cuff. So I think before we go into closing statements, maybe we offer our appreciation for both candidates here this morning. So Senator McGee went first with the opening statement. So Mayor Kennedy, you will go first with your closing statement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Rizzo. You've been a terrific moderator. Thanks again to everybody for coming out. I'm just going to act as if my opening statement was never even interrupted and pick up where I left off. I was talking about the ball field lights at many of Lynn's parks. I've installed splash pads at Flax Pond, Kylie, and Neptune Boulevard parks. I erected Lynn's first wind turbine down at the sewer treatment plant. We redeveloped 23 Central Square into the vault with 49 new market rate housing units, stabilized the residential tax rate, presided over a 23% increase in home values from 2010 to present, put all major city contracts out for competitive bid, have had no layoffs of city employees in 8 years, and achieved functional zero status for the number of homeless veterans in Lynn, the first city in Massachusetts to do so. Now, I have an 8-page list of the changes, the positive changes and the progress that has been made in Lynn over the last 8 years. There's a table back there. Wave your hands, guys. Over there. They have them if anybody is interested in seeing that. If for some reason you don't want to stop today, my telephone number at my headquarters is 599-JUDY. Make it very easy to remember. Or you can stop by 582 Chestnut Street. Give us contact information, and we will be sure to get that list to you should you be interested in reading it. I thank you once again. I have appreciated this opportunity to speak to all of you. You've been a very, very interested and receptive crowd, and I want to thank you again for that, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kennedy. Senator McGee.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor Rizzo, for your help in putting this on, and I want to thank everyone for being here and your interest in this election, but more importantly, your interest in the City of Lynn and the future of the City of Lynn. We've had a pretty good discussion this morning, but I think when you talk about where do we go from here, we talked a little bit about transportation, but it's having a broader vision, a larger vision about what can be, where we're at, but more importantly, where we're going. In 2029, we'll be 400 years a city. So the question is, where are we today, and where do we want to be tomorrow? Lynn has always been a city that people have been able to come, get a job, raise their family, and build a good life here. and what are we going to do today, and how do we continue to make that a reality tomorrow? And I'd like to go back a little bit to the transportation, because you need to have a larger vision. And again, we can disagree on what that direction is, but the city is really challenged. And if since the road that was going to come in here that ended up making Peabody a really vibrant community, 95, was halted in the early 1970s, Lynn has been impacted by its inability to access people easily in and out of the community. So what does that mean? That means, how do you think outside the box? When we had an incident on the Linway about 6 months ago, the city was completely gridlocked because there's too many cars on the city, too many cars moving through the city. If you go in the morning, coming down here, as I said, 15 minutes to get here at 7 in the morning from a mile away, the city is jammed up. The traffic in the city is creating huge problems. If people want to invest, as you all do, we need to have a plan that makes sense, and we need to look outside the box to make those things happen. Again, I think looking at rapid transit opportunities are a key piece of what our future is all about, because it's going to connect us to other parts of the Commonwealth, as well as the region. Looking at bus rapid transit opportunity, thinking about things that will allow us, as business leaders, as people in this community that want to find jobs, making sure that people can get in to the city as well as out of the city to create opportunities for their own families and for your own businesses. So by talking about these ideas, it's not about saying what we can't do, it's about saying what can we do if we come together to find a way to build a better community together. It's a community we can all believe in together. Let's make it happen. I ask for your vote on November 7th, and I know if you choose me to be the next mayor, we're going to make Lynn the city that we all believe in. Thank you for being here.
Ready?
Well, thank you again, Leslie, and to the Lynn Area Chamber of Commerce. I know this is being televised on Lynn Access Cable. Obviously, I encourage all voters to come out and vote on November 7th.